do artifacts work? Is it different for everyone, or is there a singular way it's done? Today in this video, we'll discuss how to farm for artifacts to build your characters. Before I start anything, make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more of these. What do these artifacts do? Artifacts are used to add specific stats or details to your characters to improve their damage. The most common artifacts to be used are 4 and 5-star artifacts. In my opinion, I always try to use the 5-star artifacts since they can be leveled 4 more levels than my 4-star artifacts. I'm sure you're going to sigh loudly once I say this, but it is important to not farm for artifacts until you're AR 45. That way you can unlock the highest level domain to guarantee yourself at least one 5-star artifact per domain run. Oh my gosh. What? The first thing to consider when farming for artifacts is, what does your character scale on? Most characters scale on a specific stat, which means their damage increases the more of the stat they have. For example, Shilonin is scaled on defense, so I tried to load as much defense on here as possible. But if you don't want to read a few essays, you can always Google it. But usually, if they don't scale off of anything, then it's always safe to put crit rate and crit damage. These two decrease the damage of your characters based on how high your crit rate and your crit damage is. Personally, for me, I try to have over 50% crit rate and 100% crit damage, but it's not something you can easily have on the first try, and sometimes it even goes to waste if we find a better artifact. It's important to consider what role your character is, from DPS to healer. It's always good to build them on what their role is. For example, if you wanted a DPS Barbara, you might want to put Wanderer's Troop on her, which I have barely any of, and give her crit rate and crit damage to improve her damage. But if you want a healer Barbara, you might want to put her on Maiden Beloved and give her HP artifacts to improve her healing. The elemental reaction on your team can greatly impact your build as well. There are two types of reactions: transformative and amplifying reactions. Transformative reactions are reactions that can't crit and don't require crit rate or crit damage. Instead, the base damage is multiplied by a percentage based on the elemental mastery and the character level. Transformative reactions may include Overload, Shattered, Electrocharge, Superconduct, Swirl, Burning, Bloom, Hyperbloom, and Burgeon. So, you would stack a bunch of elemental mastery on the character that triggers that reaction. For example, I built Kaveh on elemental mastery because he breaks the dendro cores and causes the bloom reaction, but he is a DPS, so I also put crit rate and crit damage on him. Amplifying reactions are the opposite. This damage is multiplied by the elemental reaction they trigger. For example, if I used Bennett's skill, then Xingqiu's, that would trigger Vaporize, which multiplies the damage by 2, and may be additionally multiplied by their elemental mastery. Amplifying reactions include Vaporize and Melt, but remember that the previous element is removed once that reaction occurs. If you're still confused to this point, you can always see what other people are doing. Personally, for me, I build characters based on their scaling. Then I put crit rate and crit damage on them. When getting artifacts, I use the ones most recommended for their role. For example, I'm building Kazuha right now, and he's going to be a crowd controller and a swirl support, so he, and many other animo characters, is going to be on Viridescent. To me, what strikes a good artifact on a character like him would be crit rate, crit damage, elemental mastery, energy recharge, and attack. But sometimes it's good to trust in the process when making artifacts. It's okay if it has a bit of defense or HP. To me, based on the character, if it has a majority of good stats, I lock it, level it to 4, and see what extra stat it gives, if possible, and then judge it then. But depending on your character, it can vary greatly. Let's take an example, a character you all love and know well.
Ooh, you're taking me out?
Lisa. Let's say I want to build Lisa on a Hyperbloom team. Now, because Hyperbloom is a transformative reaction, she can't crit, and because she's the Electro that triggers the reaction, she will have lots of elemental mastery. This includes from her set bonuses, but if I want to use her as a main DPS on a team with an amplifying reaction, I would put electro damage bonus, crit rate, and crit damage. That's it on how to farm artifacts. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.